All I know is I'm good for my $80 billion. I'm going to spend $80 billion building out Azure. Customers can count on Microsoft.
Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella in Davos for the World Economic Forum, but committed to the White House's $500 billion Stargate venture for AI.
Having a government that wants to talk to the business leaders as one of the constituents is always welcome.
But how close is too close for America?
I hope it's not an oligarchy.
Plus, are there problems in artificial intelligence's paradise? Nadella clears the air on Microsoft's partnership with OpenAI.
We are very, very happy with the access we have to OpenAI. It's just that we do have other models that we have built. We built the public model that we talk about as Phi, which is an SLM, or small language model.
And where AI brings our labor market, Microsoft's vision for jobs in a new era.
At LinkedIn, for example, we've changed what used to be front-end design product into full-stack builders. Okay. So think about it, right? So the role itself, the complete scope and scale has changed.
I'm CNBC producer Katie Kramer. Squawk Pod reports from Davos. Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella begins right now. In this podcast episode, we're bringing you another big interview from the World Economic Forum in the Swiss Alps. On the ground in Davos, Andrew Ross Sorkin has been chatting with leaders of state and business, and apparently, you can't go anywhere without talking about President Trump, or Stargate, the White House's AI venture.
Beginning immediately, Stargate will be building the physical and virtual infrastructure to power the next generation of advancements in AI, and this will include the construction of colossal data centers, very, very massive structures. This is, to me, a very big thing. $500 billion Stargate project, I think it's going to be something that's very special. It'll lead to something that could be the biggest of all.
To be clear, the plans for Stargate go back to the Biden administration. The AI infrastructure project is a joint venture between Larry Ellison's Oracle, Sam Altman's OpenAI, and Mas Hassan's SoftBank, with participation from Microsoft, NVIDIA, and ARM. The announcement raises questions about the impact for AI companies like Anthropic, in which Amazon holds a large stake. It's run by Dario Amodei, and all the interpersonal relationships in big tech.
Sam Altman standing behind the presidential lectern, if you will, with the presidential seal. Of course, he is the greatest nemesis, if you will, of Elon Musk.
Plus, where is all this money coming from?
Very interestingly, after they announced this, Elon Musk took to Twitter saying they don't have the money.
One dynamic in question, that of Microsoft and OpenAI, once very closely linked. Salesforce CEO Marc Benioff, a competitor, suggested a fracture between the AI brain at Microsoft, Mustafa Suleyman, and the AI brain at OpenAI, founder Sam Altman.
You think this is the beginning of the fissure? Like you're actually, this may be the moment.
I think that happened actually quite a while ago. It actually happened a year ago here in Davos.
Now let's get to today's big interview. What you're about to hear was recorded in plein air in the snowy Alps. Here's Andrew Ross Sorkin.
President Trump announcing a new joint venture yesterday called Stargate to build and grow AI infrastructure in the U.S. OpenAI, SoftBank, and Oracle plan to commit $100 billion to start, potentially up to $500 billion over 4 years. Microsoft listed as one of the partners to the new venture. Joining us now for an exclusive interview is Satya Nadella, Chairman and CEO of Microsoft. Good morning to you.
Thank you so much.
And it's so good to talk to you in the midst of all of this, because we're all trying to understand it and what it means, whether it's possible to get to $500 billion, and what it means specifically, I think, for your partnership with OpenAI, given that they had been using Azure exclusively and now obviously are going to be on other platforms as well.
Yeah, first of all, anytime a company that you've sponsored and were essentially a seed investor in raises money from others, it's a good day. A good day for OpenAI and a good day for Microsoft and our investors. Look, our partnership continues. We'll be a tech partner to Stargate, but more importantly, our partnership with OpenAI, you talked about exclusivity. OpenAI APIs are exclusive to Azure going forward even, so nothing changes there. IP access to Microsoft continues, and in fact, because of this, there will be more IP, and so therefore we'll benefit, and we have rev share arrangements that are great, and also OpenAI committed in a very significant way to Azure consumption. And so we're very thrilled about that as well. So all up, as far as I'm concerned, this accelerates OpenAI's model work, which accelerates Microsoft's ability to go to market with those models and really grow our business.
Let me ask you this. We had one of your competitors on earlier this morning, Marc Benioff, who has been very critical of this partnership. And one of the things that he said this is a demonstration of a fissure between the two companies, that you are going to go off longer term and build your own frontier models, and that there's a disconnect of some sort between Sam Altman and Mustafa, who you hired to run your AI program.
It's extremely important that OpenAI gets to other platforms quickly, because Microsoft is building their own AI, and I don't think that Microsoft will use OpenAI in the future. They'll have their own frontier models. They've said it very clearly that it's too expensive and too hard for them, and that they want to have their own. That's why they hired Mustafa Suleyman, and Mustafa Suleyman and Sam Altman are not best friends.
Can you speak to that?
I mean, look, I think the partnership with OpenAI to us is a critical partnership. We love it. It's working. It's created a lot of value for us. And we plan to just continue forward with it. It's true that on Azure today, there are other models. There are open source models. We have our own small language models, and we'll continue to have all of that. Because customers at the end of the day are going to demand choice there, and that's fine, and we'll make sure we support it. But having a leading model on Azure exclusively is a great advantage to us, and it's good.
Let me ask you this. So I talked to Sam Altman at DealBook just about a month and a half ago now, and he says, I don't think we're disentangling, to your point. He says, look, I will not pretend there are no misalignments or challenges. Obviously, there are some. On the whole, he said that he thinks it's tremendously positive. What are the things where there's not alignment? One of the things I noticed in one of your filings recently is you actually put OpenAI as a competitor on your list, which I thought must speak about your ambitions long term.
Yeah, I mean, more importantly, I think for us, one of the things that, in fact, Stargate is the answer. Sam wants to continue with the scaling laws to build out more compute in order for him to train more models. And we have a ROFR, so he comes to us first. If we meet those needs, then we clear it. If not, he can go to these other providers. And so therefore, I think it works out well for Sam and for us. So this was an adjustment, quite frankly, that we made in order to support both his needs, while at the same time keeping the integrity of what we wanted as the strategic value.
You were investing $80 billion already. How much money do you ultimately put into this?
So this is where Microsoft is investing $80 billion in capital each year, and this year we're investing. And I'm not particularly in the details of what they're investing. Okay,
and so, but when you look at that $100 billion commitment, $500 billion potential, I don't know if you saw Elon Musk took to Twitter and said they don't have the money. The money doesn't exist, as if this is not really going to happen. What do you think of that?
Look, all I know is I'm good for my $80 billion. I'm going to spend $80 billion building out Azure. Customers can count on Microsoft with OpenAI models being there everywhere in the world, serving OpenAI models and other models. That's, I think, what I know.
One of the other discussions here in Davos, and even before Davos, has been this question of whether there's a wall, whether the scaling laws will continue apace. And Sam Altman has been out there saying that they will continue apace. Sundar Pichai has been suggesting that actually it gets a little bit more complicated sooner than we may imagine. Where do you land on that?
I mean, I think both are true, actually, because the reality is I don't think there's a wall. Things do get harder with scale. And interestingly enough, pre-training scale with, as the scale goes up, gets harder. But then what Sam and team have shown, even with O1 and now O3, is this inference time compute and the ability to really have inference scaling compound in some sense the effects of scaling laws. So what used to be a 6-month doubling, maybe a 3-month doubling. So I would say scaling laws are very much alive. And the question now is, in fact, if anything, how do you take advantage of all this capability building to deploy real AI systems?
Where are you on your own frontier models? Obviously, you did hire Mustafa. You have your own efforts that are underway. What does that look like? When will we see that? And what do you think that ultimately does you've done remarkably with OpenAI, and that may turn out to be a spectacular investment unto itself. but how you think this whole landscape shifts at some point.
I mean, I think just to be very, very clear, we have access to OpenAI IP, so we're not going to do things twice. So we are very, very happy with the access we have to OpenAI. It's just that we do have other models that we have built. We built the public model that we talk about is Phi, which is an SLM, or small language model, Phi-4. It's best in class for its parameter size. And we have other models too. But to me, the more important thing for me is to build value on top of OpenAI. So we have a fantastic post-training stack. We have done even a bunch of mid-training in different languages. So that's where our focus is.
When you think about the scaling laws, how much of all of this is simply about processing power? If you can buy enough NVIDIA chips today that you too can create a spectacular large language model. I look at what Elon Musk has done in the last 12 months, which is just remarkable. Built out a whole stack. He got a lot of NVIDIA chips and he's done it. How much of it is about the processing power versus the algorithm?
I mean, look, it's all of it, but compute is intelligence. But on top of compute, you need the algorithmic breakthroughs too. I mean, so to some degree, if you look at even why the scaling laws are working, is because we are getting good at being both using algorithmic changes as well as data and data usage and compute efficiency. And that's where the capability is. It's, when we say scaling laws, it's just not compute. In fact, it is faster than compute growth. So if the compute is done 10x, the capability is 100x. Why is that? It's software.
One of the big questions, and I've heard it from a bunch of Chinese AI executives here, they say that their AI programs are 97, 98% of what some of the large language models in the US can do. And they claim they're doing it with chips that are, 5, 10 years old. We had Dario Amodi from Anthropic here yesterday. He said, I don't know if that's totally true because they got a lot of NVIDIA chips early before the government put certain things in place, and they might have gotten other chips, from around the bend, if you will. What do you think is happening in terms of how you think about AI in the US and China and this chip issue?
First of all, I'm going by the papers they're publishing, and it's very impressive. I mean, to see the DeepSeek new model, it's super impressive in terms of both how they have really effectively done an open source model that does what is this inference time compute, and it's super compute efficient. So I think we should take the development out of China very, very seriously. And it also speaks to perhaps what I think is going to happen now, which is the model layer itself will get commoditized. And what's going to be really important is obviously a great world-class infrastructure underneath and then world-class applications on top. And both of those places is where most of the enterprise value gets created.
Big regulatory question for you. Now that we have a new administration, you went down to Mar-a-Lago, met with President Trump. Lina Khan was very much against a lot of the kinds of transactions you were looking at, investigating even the transaction with OpenAI, for example. Do you see a lot of M&A now ahead of you?
Well, I mean, to me, always, whether it is LinkedIn or GitHub or the partnership with OpenAI or Activision,
I was going to say,
we're all done because we felt we could be better owners, because we could do things on the technology front, on the go-to-market front, and then on both sides, the shareholders could benefit. Right. And so we'll obviously be definitely open to anything that fits that criteria. Right. But fundamentally, we have to have that brand permission, and we have to have a vision that we can actually be a better owner of that asset.
What did you talk to the president about?
It was a great conversation on a couple of different topics. One, of course, on AI and energy and the nexus there, and the need for the United States to build out more of the energy infrastructure and support. We talked about cyber. That was the other topic. Broad range of topics.
What do you make of the number of tech CEOs who have either gone down to Mar-a-Lago or were at the inauguration lined up behind the president in better seats, frankly, than some of his cabinet members?
I mean, having a government that wants to talk to the business leaders as one of the constituents is always welcome, right? I mean, at the end of the day, I think we as a nation are better off. I'm not saying that it needs to be only about business. It needs to be about the country and all the constituents. But at the same time, having an open dialogue on what we think and having effectively a pro-growth agenda is a healthy thing for the country.
What do you think the American public should think of it? Because I think that there's some people who look at it very optimistically, the way you just approached it, and others say, oh my goodness, they're going to kiss the ring. There's an oligarchy. something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I hope it's not an oligarchy. I'm a citizen of the United States, where I hope we elect people to be the government of the country, and I think that's the way it should be. And everybody's vote counts the same.
Right. One other question I had, given that we're talking about AI and the energy consumption issue, is for many years we talked about energy and climate here. You've made pledges. A lot of other companies have made pledges. I think you're going to be trying to beat those pledges, or still think you can. A lot of other companies, I think, can't. What do you make of what's happened?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the new growth formulas for GDP growth anywhere in any country, I think, is going to be what I describe as tokens per watt per dollar, right? That's the way to think about that energy and compute and intelligence nexus. And so in that context, we have contracted, something like 36 gigawatts all around the world of energy. And we plan to continue with our goals to 2030 and feel confident that we can get there with both a combination of what we source on the grid and behind the meter. And so we feel pretty good about making progress.
Final, maybe humanity or existential question about labor and life with AI. Dario yesterday was saying that he thought, so many jobs could effectively go away very soon. I mean, we're getting very close to that. Marc Benioff was saying that he's actually stopped hiring software engineers because so much of the software is being written by AI. What's Microsoft doing, and what do you foresee?
I think for sure there's going to be productivity increases, because in some sense AI does really help reduce the drudgery in a lot of our work. In fact, talking about software development, my first belief in all this technology came when I saw GitHub Copilot and what it did, because the joy of programming was something that was brought back because of AI helping me with the task in hand. So I think what AI does, quite frankly, is simultaneously reduce the floor and raise the ceiling for all of us. So that means the expertise level inside of an organization goes up, productivity goes up. So that means there will be, take software development. I think there'll be 1 billion software developers. And you could say, wow, does the world need 1 billion software developers? Look at the tech debt. Right. You look at every IT organization and say the number of apps that they need to refactor, rewrite, build new. I think 1 billion software developers is a good thing for the world.
So no job losses.
I think there's going to be real new skilling, real changes in jobs. Even in software engineering, at LinkedIn, for example, we've changed what used to be front-end design product into full-stack builders. Okay. So think about it, right? So the role itself, the complete scope and scale has changed. That, I think, reimagining of the labor force and the scope and scale, I think, is what's going to happen.
Satya, thank you for having this conversation with us, for staying out here in the cold. I want to thank you very, very much, especially for coming on and discussing this deal as it was announced. So thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to this special Squawk Pod Reports. Squawk Box is hosted by Joe Kernan, Becky Quick, and Andrew Ross Sorkin. Squawk Pod is produced by me, Katie Kramer, Cameron Costa, and Caroline Rahotis. John Lesration is our editor. Have a great day.